All right. So we're going to move over to Steve Simmons, who's going to talk about all things NIL. And Steve is going to share some things that he has as well. I mean, he's with NIL Partners, and this is another partner that we have that is really passionate about this. And when they come on to these things, they're giving you their all. They're giving you their time, their effort, and everything that we expect a true partner to be about. So, Steve, take it away there.
Hey guys, thank you very much. This is really great to be here today. Obviously Pete decided he was going to pull a bunch of my stuff, all because I gave him grief about having a beard and all this nonsense last night. But, we can play nicely in the same sandbox. Listen, we love what Pete and his company are doing. We work very closely with those guys, and he touched on a lot of really important things when it comes to NIL. We look at it, the genesis of our company was, when the Supreme Court ruling came down on NIL, my partner who spent 25 years with the Chicago Blackhawks hockey organization as an executive, I worked for about 25 years with professional athletes on the finance side. We came together and we saw, we've got ties to corporations, we've got ties to athletes, let's get in the middle. And once we saw every vulture coming out of the woodwork trying to do the same damn thing, because everybody was going to pitch, I'm going to get your kid a deal with Gatorade or McDonald's or whatever it is. But nobody was sitting back and saying, how are we preparing these kids for this new world, right? And that's when we said, you know what, there needs to be education. And we all know the stats, how many professional athletes who sign these massive contracts end up going bankrupt, becoming homeless, getting in trouble, going to prison, whatever it may be. And if you're telling me that as a quote unquote adult, with $20 million contracts and you're failing and you can't have a lot of these guys and the right network around you to help you, what do we expect of college kids, right? I was the shortest and fattest D1 athlete at my university. If somebody gave me $5,000 on a Friday, by Monday, I'd probably owe 20 grand, because nobody's telling me what we should be doing. No one's telling me, oh, by the way, at the end of the year, you owe taxes. You got a bunch of deals, you owe taxes. Because for every kid who's on the rowing team at Princeton, and I'll pick on those guys, a lot of these kids have networks around them. They have people who can guide them. They've got families there. But for the kids coming out of Mississippi, like we met with N'Kobe Dean when he won the Buckus Award, right? His sphere of influence was literally a couple of uncles, some relatives, and a couple of kids in a town of 500, right? And, I know Pete can touch on this just from wearing his legal hat. A lot of these deals, they're great to get these deals, but you need to have someone sign off on them, have an attorney look them over. And you may not think it means much when you get a small apparel deal. But we had one athlete who signed a deal with a local, regional clothing company. It was a nice deal. And then all of a sudden his star took off. And then you had Under Armour reaching out to him. And there's this little phrase in his contract that said, in perpetuity. And that meant he was owned by this t-shirt company that he signed with. Now, he's able to get out of it, but it costs him more because now he's got to bring in attorneys to kind of cancel one deal to get the deal somewhere else. It all comes down to education. So we created a platform that's taught by current athletes, by entrepreneurs, by business school professors, talking about everything that matters to get you to the next level of NIL. Whether it's things like, what's a credit score? What's a credit report? Why does it matter? Why you shouldn't open 15 credit cards your first week of college because you're getting a brand new t-shirt with the school logo on it. What you're doing is you are building yourself up for the future. And, Pete touched on something that's near and dear to our heart. The average deal, if you go across 480,000 athletes, student athletes eligible, the average deal works out to about $57 per athlete. That number's skewed because you have kids who are bringing in 6- and 7-figure deals. But on those numbers, it shows that everybody can do something, right? But what's more important is it's not about the short-term grab and going, okay, I've got to get my shot now. It's about how you're building yourself out down the line. So for example, we had a very large accounting firm that's well-known reach out and say, can you run a screen on all student athletes who are accounting majors? Okay, because we want to look at them from their perspective. You're an accounting major, odds are probably fairly slim you're going on to play pro ball once you're done with college. But if you're playing whatever sport it is at a high level, if you're maintaining your grades, if you're engaging with your fans, if you've built a company or a product and you're selling it and you're compliant and you're maintaining taxes, you're doing all these things. These are real life skills that these companies are looking for. And a lot of these companies want to say, you know what? We want to sponsor you now. We want to do something small now because we want to have our hooks in you that when you graduate, you're thinking about us versus their competitors. And how you carry yourself is what's going to get there. But the concern is, as this goes on, first and foremost, you guys are students, right? Focus on school, because that's what's going to carry you down the line if you're not playing pro ball. And guess what? You're playing pro ball, for the sake of argument, you're playing football. You're done 27, 28, 29 years old. You got a whole lifetime ahead of you. So are you managing your investments and your salaries and everything you have for the future? Or do you have something else you're going to fall back on? Because not every one of you is going to be a commentator, right? So we talk with folks like Eric Averill, who pitched for the Houston Astros. We talk with Zach Miller, who was a tight end with the Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl. And, he's just up on getting a new contract done. And then season-ending ankle injury, right? He's done, wasn't ready for that. And it was how he sort of prepared and said, okay, I got to manage my money so that I can go on and do what I want to do and not feel forced to also now start all over again at age 29. Amon Richards is one of our mentors. He's a star wide receiver at University of Miami, projected first-round draft pick, has career-ending neck injury, never steps on a football field again. He was able to pivot and kind of deal with the mental fortitude to say, you know what? I had this whole posse of people hanging around me who, were on my coattails because they all knew I was going to the NFL, and all of a sudden they disappeared. That level of, that change in the psyche, that really affects you. And your mental health awareness is something that is so incredibly important. Because if we're asking you to be a student, we're asking you to be an athlete. Now we're telling you build a brand, find these deals. That level of stress that comes with it is more so now than it's ever been for kids. And especially when you factor social media in. Social media is everything, right? How you carry yourself on there, how you engage with your fans. These are all things we work with the students on to help them understand that, as Zach Banner from the Pittsburgh Steelers said, being the most authentic form of yourself is the best way to carry on moving forward, because a lot of kids feel like they need to carry, certain image in one respect, but they can never keep that up. And it becomes harder and harder, and you get lost in that self. And the problem is corporate sponsors see that. But, Zach Banner rose to prominence a couple of years ago because he took a stance against anti-Semitism talked about by, a fellow athlete. And he made it a point saying, listen, as Black athletes, we can't go out there and say Black Lives Matter if we're going to take down other people, right? So he pushes the fact and the idea that your platform, your social media platform is everything. And as you're an athlete, as your star rises, you have the ability to do great things with that. And, whether it's creating a foundation, okay, these are all things you can do where you can pay it forward and you can still be, you can benefit from it yourself. And your star will continue to rise because you have this ability and wherewithal to do more with where you're at. And we try to help people with that. But all through that, we want to make sure your mental health and your mental well-being is watched closely. There's a recent statistic, over 35% of student athletes struggle with some form of mental illness or depression, right? We saw what happened with Simone Biles. We saw what happened with Naomi Osaka. And what's the reaction? Oh, they don't have the mental fortitude. They're not strong enough. They're not tough enough. These are athletes competing on the highest levels. If Simone Biles is having an off day and is in her head because she's struggling with something while she's doing her 6th or 7th rotation, right? It now is dangerous. So we need to destigmatize that. Mental health training should be no different than skills training and weight training, right? You're keeping track of yourself. And, these are all things you do to build yourself out. And we make sure that you have these abilities and things to check in and have resources available. You know, when John Jones was talking about his podcast earlier, it's an incredibly important thing. We've started a partnership with another group where these student athletes can build up dynamic web pages and put in things like links to their podcast. They can do things, subscription-based fan content. They can do digital autographs. They can download highlight reels. All these things, it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. It doesn't matter if you're not the Heisman pick, right? For the kid who's the second string goalie, you know, at Gonzaga State, you can do these things. And like Pete has shown, there are companies who want you to do this, right? They want to see you out there. They want to see you engaging because you're building the brand of you. You have to be your own biggest cheerleader, right? You control things, but you need to make sure if you don't have the right people around you to help build your brand, then find those people, right? Find that network. Find those people who are going to support you and have your best interests in mind. You know, I'm not, you know, Pete notwithstanding, I'm not the biggest fan of attorneys, but you need them in this case. Trademarking your logo, trademarking your brand, whatever it is you're doing, right? We saw Doug Eater during the NCAA college tournament, you know, playing for, you know, St. Peter's, yeah, it was St. Peter's, coming out of nowhere. And also this kid is getting NIL deals just from a couple of memes that hit, right? And just because he became the face of sort of the Cinderella story. You never know when lightning's going to strike, but you need to be prepared to be in that position to take it when it does and be able to leverage it up. And, you know, when it comes to social media, something you need to understand, it is a very, very powerful ally, but it can just be the worst vortex of hell that Dante never imagined, okay? You have to understand that you don't need to respond to every post that's out there because you know what? There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be somebody who's a rival school or just, you know, from the anonymity that it brings can say anything they want to you in the comfort of their mom's basement and no one's going to, you know, there's no repercussion. So you need to be able to just walk away and take a step back sometimes and recognize I don't need to engage everyone because at the same time you're engaging and maybe talking down to whoever it is, there's some corporate recruiter, there's some sponsor, there's somewhere else looking at going, man, if this is how she's going to respond to this stuff, maybe they're not the right person we want representing the brand. Maybe they're not the person we want, you know, to sponsor or to hire, whatever it may be. But if you can always punch higher, always aim higher, you know, down here, you know, we've got the old expression, bless your heart, right? That's just the easiest way to walk away. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. No one will ever confront you in person the same way they will on social media. Use it to your advantage every chance possible because you're always building your own brand. Everything that you're doing reflects upon you. And you know, it then reflects upon your university, reflects upon your teammates. So that network is your support network when it comes down to it. You need to be able to figure out how you can leverage these spaces and take it to the next level. We're in conversations with a couple of corporate sponsors right now who will be, if we finish and close everything properly, we will be giving our platform to every student athlete at Grambling and ideally every HBCU, because we don't think education is something that should be, you know, it shouldn't come at the student's expense, right? It should be coming from the ADs, and we want the corporate sponsors to get behind it and say, listen, we've got 30 plus modules on everything from what's the difference between day trading and investing? Why do I need life insurance? Why do I need attorneys? How do I deal with overtraining? Who do I go to if I feel like a coach or a teammate or someone's being inappropriate? What are my resources? All these modules are taught by people who've experienced it firsthand, who've gone through it, because we want to be cautionary tales. We want to be able to say, hey, here's where I screwed up. Here's where you don't have to. Here's where I made a mistake. Here's where you can do better. How do you keep building higher? So we're always going to be accessible. I'm on Twitter at NIL Partners. You can reach out. My DMs are open all the time, but we're hoping to have a couple of big announcements shortly to really take things to the next level. So by all means, please, any questions, we're here and happy to keep talking.
Hey, Steve, that was great. Like I said, just two really dynamic speakers that, you know, are understanding that this is something that's very necessary. And, partners of the Icon 1901. I mean, it's necessary, and we're building this. This is a grassroots effort of how it started. And when it starts at the grassroots and it builds like that, it's done the right way. So we're not out there rushing or trying to get things done, overnight. What we're doing is we're pacing ourselves, but we're also moving along so that our student athletes, hopefully when they come back to school, hey, we're ready to go. We're rocking and rolling, and they've got the content, we've got the deals, and we're just making it happen. So Steve, thanks again for your thoughtful wisdom and for all that you shared with us.
And man, it's my pleasure. We're happy to pay it forward. And like I said, we're available whenever possible. Don't never be afraid. I hate, and I know Pete hates it too, that all this, NIL's the Wild West. It's the Oregon Trail. It's Pandora's box. Man, every cliche has been used, but the simple fact is it's not going away. It's only getting bigger. And it all comes down to two things: protect yourself and be your own biggest cheerleader. No one's going to work harder for you than you will. Just protect yourself.
No, that's great. That is awesome. So with that, we only have 2 more sections that we're going to cover today. Of course, this is just our first NIL training camp, but it's the one that we wanted to kick off initially. So I don't know how many of you like to be the first of anything, but you are all the first, and we are excited about that. So next up, we're going to have one of our business partners, Attorney David Dirks, who is our Chief Compliance Officer, and he's going to talk about NIL finances and different things like that.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Attorney David Dirks. I am also a financial educator, a part of a national financial campaign that seeks to really help educate people about ways to save their future. Not saving for your future, but to save your future. Before I do that, I want to apologize for not being there in person. I had some last minute travel plans this weekend. They got a little bit rescheduled due to some weather here in the DC area. You all know how that is. So unfortunately, I'm on a plane at this very moment. However, I felt that this was very important to ensure that we had a financial sort of piece to this boot camp. I commend all of you, the parents, any other business partners that are on here, as well as, of course, the students. So all of the students that are joining us today, I commend you so much because you're taking that step into really building your future, figuring out what you need to do in order to put yourself in the best position to secure name, image, and likeness deals. I also just want to say at the onset that, this is not financial advice, it's not legal advice. It really is just a session of how a way for me to educate you on things that you should be considering, not only as someone who's going to be an influencer through NIL deals or a brand ambassador, but just as someone that now you all are adults, you're in college, hopefully you are going to be working or making money while playing sports. And you do need to know that, you need to take care of your finances, both your legal obligations to pay taxes, but also ways to manage it, and also ways to save and ways to grow your money. Because in the financial industry, the financial services, we all touch it. Just like the legal industry, there's many ways that it applies. I want to say that at the onset, some of you, especially parents, are some of our interested businesses, our business partners. You all will see that and understand that in a normal job, you all go to work, you work your hours, you get your paycheck, and you see that there's a calculation of taxes, and usually benefits or other fees coming out, such as Social Security, coming out of your check, state and federal taxes. What you should know is that, the employer is already doing that for you. Anytime, and then in April of the next year, we all have to file taxes with the IRS. And our taxes are based upon all income that we make. If you own property and you receive rents, if you have investments and you make money from those investments, you have to let the IRS know. If you're receiving things like child support, it may impact your income at the end of the year, as well as any additional income, side income. I want to be clear at the onset that, if you're a student and you think these NIL deals that you're going to be making, because we know that you all are going to get some really good NIL deals, the reality is you are going to have to pay taxes, most likely on that money, or at the very least report it. So with that being said, many of you will be what's called a 1099 employee. Or, sorry, I take that back. A 1099 contract employee, in that sense. You will be 1099. I take the word employee out because that has different meaning and in a different context. However, what that is, you're going to have a $10,000 deal. You're probably going to get the full $10,000. The businesses or companies that you're going to be partnering with for NIL deals will not, for the most part, will not be taking out taxes of your check. So you have to make sure that you pay those taxes. So when you report that $10,000, whatever your tax bracket is, if you have other employment or other ways that you're making money, you have to make sure that you account for all of it, because your employer will not do that, okay? So the IRS will assess you on the amount of money that you made for the full year, including the money that you may be making through your NIL deals. So that's really the first part that I wanted to explain to you all, is that there is a legal obligation here to ensure that you, at the very least, file your taxes. And what we mean by filing your taxes is that you are letting the IRS know, this is how much money I made in totality, because the businesses are required to report any payments over $600. So you could get $100, you can get $100 from 1,000 employees, and I did it right now. I probably did it, but whatever. 100 different payments, that totals $10,000. And those companies don't necessarily have to file or let the IRS know that they paid you. However, you have a legal obligation to report that you made $10,000, okay? Cumulative. But if a company is paying you $1,000, $600, anything over $600, they're required to report. So with that being said, again, just remember that the income that you make from the NIL space is income that is taxable. In most instances, you may not owe a tax debt, or you may not owe a tax bill, but you need to, at the very least, report it. Beat that with a dead horse. Let's move into some financial 101. First and foremost, I went to 2 HBCUs. If you didn't know already, I went to Grambling State, I went to Howard Law. And for me, my mom, it started in the house. My mom started to teach me early on about financial education, and that includes, understanding that when, at the very minimum, you have to have a foundation, right? So I ask you, when building a house from the ground up, what is the most important thing that you need to have? I'm gonna pause a little bit as if I was there. Exactly. You need to build a foundation, right? And what happens when that foundation is weak? The house comes crumbling down. Exactly. So that's the same thing with the financial one-on-ones. You have to have a good foundation. You have to know, and you have to do that because you want to make sure that you're protected, right? And I want you all to answer to yourselves, what does protection mean to you in a financial sense, right? Whatever that may mean to you, what does it protection mean? You know, for me, protection means not having to worry, not having to think about if something happens, I won't have enough to pay for some things. When I get older, that I have, you know, things that I can live off of, because we know we can't work for our entire lives. So whatever that means to you, I want you to always write that down. In terms of debt management, there are two forms of debt. There is good debt and there's bad debt. I want to give you examples of each. Good debt is paying for a mortgage, for parents on the call, kids' college expenses. Bad debt, and students, please listen. Our credit cards, our bills in general, those are things that have high interest rates, and oftentimes they just come like clockwork, especially bills. So you want to be careful not to accumulate too much of that. The next thing I want to talk about is an emergency fund. You may have heard, and if you haven't, of the 10-20 rule. The 10-20 rule is you should have at least 6 to 10 months of monthly expenses saved up just for emergencies. So that means if you have $1,000 in expenses a month, you need at least 6 to 10,000 just for emergencies. Okay, and then that's the 10. Remember, 10-20 rule. And the 20 means you need to have at least 20 times your annual salary to retire. So many of you are not going to think about your retirement now, but work with the Icon Collective 1901 and Icon 1901 Collective, and you will learn how important it is to think about your retirement now. Okay, especially with the opportunities that you all are going to have with NIL deals. Okay. So back to the 20. If you make, when you get out of school, you have an annual salary at any given point, but really at your highest peak. But you want to start thinking about it now. So say, for instance, you make $30,000 per year, okay? Then you would need to have $600,000 to retire to maintain the same type of lifestyle that you have now. So keep that calculation in mind, because when you make $100,000, when you make $200,000, because you're going to have a way of living that you want to maintain, and you're going to probably accumulate expenses appropriate for your salary, meaning you're going to have a $200,000 salary worth of house versus a $30,000 a year house payment. Okay, so now let's move to investments and savings. Okay, so again, we talked about the foundation, we talked about protection, we talked about debt management, good and bad debt. We talked about investments. No, we talked about the 10-20 rule, and that's based on how much money you need to have in case of an emergency fund, as well as how much you need to have at retirement, right? So don't forget good debt, bad debt, and the 10-20 rule, okay? So in terms of investments and savings, I tell everybody you know, if you don't have a solid foundation, if you're in debt, if you don't have an emergency fund, you cannot invest or save properly. So many people will literally be in debt up to here, you know, don't have any money saved in case of an accident or sickness. And, you know, they're sitting up in here buying crypto, invested in NFTs and all these other things. So it's not a bad idea to, I'm not saying don't invest. I'm saying you have to make sure that you have the proper foundation laid. You have to make sure that you have an emergency fund, and you have to make sure that you are not in debt. You know, you don't have a bunch of debt that you're carrying, okay? So the average American pays every bill first before they pay themselves. Always remember that that's a bad habit. So with your NIL deals, you need to pay yourself first, okay? You know, keep on money. You got to pay Uncle Sam. Don't forget about that. You got to pay the IRS. But you need to remember to take some for yourself so that you can save for it, so that you can pay any debt that you have. And then after you pay the debt, and after you have an emergency fund, then you can go and take care of any investments or other additional savings that you have, okay? So we should get in the habit of paying ourselves first before we pay any bill, like cable, a cell phone. I'm trying to think of other bills you all might have in college, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube TV, whatever streaming device or service if you don't have cable. Rent, as well. If you need to pay yourself before you pay all of that kind of stuff, because if you're just paying your debt only, you're probably going to be in a position where you don't have an emergency fund and you're not saving for your future, okay? Now, let's talk about the wealth formula. Everyone wants to make money, but it takes time. Okay, if you think that you're going to be a part of a get-rich-quick scheme, I would say think again. So you want to make money, you need to know that it takes time, and it usually is plus or minus equals the rate of return plus minus inflation plus minus the tax equals wealth. So let me say it again. You have your money plus the rate of return minus inflation minus tax is equals wealth. So let's talk about the importance of paying yourself first. So you should set aside 5% to 10% at a minimum for monthly expenses, preferably 15% if you can, okay? And then also think about making small changes now to get big money in the future. So let's say you like to go to Starbucks or Raising Cane's or Sonic or wherever. If you have any expensive habits, whatever it is. So let's just say, if a person would just say $10 a day, if you would stop drinking Starbucks, that's $300 per month. At 8% in 30 years, you will save almost $500,000. If a couple would just save $20 a day, that's $600 per month. At 8% interest, in 30 years, you will have close to $1 million. So just remember that at the end of the day, you all want to have a solid foundation. You want to make sure that you have a good emergency fund. Pay yourself first. And then also remember that if we make small changes now, then we can have big rewards in the future. Again, I'm attorney David Dirks. I am also a licensed insurance agent as well as a financial educator. I can share more information with you all, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you students and parents and business partners as we move into the next school year. The Icon 1901 Collective, including myself, LaShanda, Marva, and Mark, are really, really, really excited about this opportunity. We are committed to working with you all. I hope I didn't bore you all too much. I hope I didn't confuse you. But if I did, that means you were listening and that we just have some work to do. So again, I'm looking forward to working with you all. I'm looking forward to seeing with you all. And I'm going to turn it back over to the next person, or back over to my partners at the Icon 1901 Collective. Again, thank you very much and have a great day.
All right, that was attorney David Dirks, and he gave us those nuggets of wisdom about just the financial piece and being about your business, which is really, really key. So we only have one more speaker, and this is to wrap things up, but this is the piece that we really wanted to have for the students. It kind of brings everything together and ties everything into a nice package for us for today. And that is just for us to be able to introduce this branding apparel deal for everyone on the call. So I'm going to turn it over to our partner, Bobby Hernandez.
Okay, welcome back. So as part of our continuation with our NIL training camp, today I have Bobby Hernandez, who is the operations director for Print for Players. Print for Players is a partner of ours, where they really reached out to us and said, hey, how do we partner with the Icon 1901 Collective to make sure that we are helping you all represent student athletes in the best light? So, their brand, their image, their name is really important to them as well. And we are excited to have this partnership. So I'm going to let Bobby introduce himself and tell a little bit about the company. And then we're going to talk about how they really benefit you all as a student athlete.
Thanks a lot, Mark. With Print for Players, we create merchandise and help athletes create their own brand. Merchandise is going to be a really, really large part of the NIL marketplace. And I'm sure that you all have seen, various companies doing merchandise. We want to be mainly for the athletes. We want to make sure that they're taken care of, that they're doing things the right way, that they're making the most money possible. And so it's been nice. It's been a fun process so far. It's been fun to communicate with players and kind of figuring out where they want their brand to kind of be. It's been a really fun process so far, and we're excited to keep the ball rolling with you all.
No, that's great. I know it took us a while to get things going, but we wanted to do our due diligence and making sure we had that strong partnership in place. And, I appreciate everything you've been doing and working with the few athletes that we have on board already. And I can't wait to see, their brand launched, and then some of their merchandise that their friends, their family, their supporters back home, or just people in general that just follow them through their social media, support them. This is a great way for student athletes to be supported. As we know, they always need some money or something to support themselves. Some come from different backgrounds where they just don't have that support in place. Absolutely. So, Bobby, why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the process and what you think is most important for a student athlete in managing the business side of this?
For me, it's just kind of concentrating on who you are as a person, and some of what you believe in, some of what you strive to do or strive to be, and then incorporating that into your brand, because your brand or your image is really just an extension of you. And so if you want it to be more lively and fun, then that would go around, go back to your designs. If you want it to be maybe a little bit more clean and conservative, that would be your design. We see both, you know, I mean, we want it to be a place where you're proud of it. You're proud of your design. You're proud of your logo, of your brand. And then it means something to you, you know?
Yeah, no, that's important. I look back and my son, who is also partnering with Print for Players, is going to be playing at Xavier, I'm sorry. And really looking forward to see his brand and his platform come to life.
It's fun. It's fun for everybody. You know, it's fun for the family. It's fun for their friends. You know, and then later on down the line, 5-10 years, they're still going to have some merch, you know, whether it becomes a really big brand and they end up doing their own thing and their own website, or whether it's just a, you know, couple years in college where you have something fun on the side for some extra money.
Yes.
Either way, I mean, it's fun for everyone.
Yeah. And, you know, I think what I like about Print for Players, I mean, we had a number of, you know, competitors coming our way and things like that, but you all said, hey, we're about the student athlete. We're about partnering, and then we'll figure out the rest. But we have to make sure the student athlete sees the benefit and that they benefit from this from the start. So
absolutely,
we can't wait for, you know, the QB1s and the, you know, star running backs, or even the guy that's the walk-on that just, you know, wants to be a business in himself to come on board and, you know, give this a try. How much of it do you think is just, you know, a student athlete just needs to really dream big and step out there and just make it happen?
I mean, I think that's a lot of it, you know, I mean, going out there, like I said before, I mean, doing something that you believe in, but then doing it to the max, you know, talking about it, promoting it, wearing it, having your friends wear it. It's a big part. I mean, you know, going back to what you said, we always try to be for the players. We've dedicated 50% split, 50-50, to make sure that the players are getting the most money. And we pay weekly. I mean, whenever I was in college, man, I didn't have a lot of money. A weekly paycheck would have been nice. And so that's what we've decided to do with our athletes. And I mean, it's a really big step, but it's something that is going to be fun. It's going to be a great learning experience for the players. It's going to allow them to kind of take control of their own brand, of their own business, whether it be a small business, but it could grow. We've seen a lot of success. I mean, you know, we've seen a lot of players this week just had to pay a player, you know, $500. It's good money for a student athlete, especially, you know, selling their merchandise. So we're excited.
No, that's good. For those listening and those that'll listen later, what can you tell us are some of the things that you think are good for a student athlete to put their logo on? How does that process kind of work? I'm sure you guys had the experience of it, but, you know, are there some other things that you think the students should be getting people excited about and say, hey, this is coming, right? They're all home. They're going to be home in their hometown, and we're going to be challenging them to really push this so it can take off for them.
Well, to me, you know, we've seen success in a lot of different ways. Some of the branding and logos actually don't have, or it doesn't look like it has anything to do with the athlete. It's not a picture of them or anything. They'll just create a really cool looking logo. And then, you know, it's got some sort of meaning or something behind it, or maybe a catchphrase, and it ends up doing really well. People get behind it. People like the message that it brings. But, you know, I mean, we're still learning a lot with you know, the merchandise and NIL, seeing what works, what doesn't work. We're starting to do some team deals, so the entire team has their own kind of logo that they will design, and then that's split evenly between the entire team. We've seen a lot of success with that, just because it allows the fan base to support everyone in one go. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, we're seeing a lot of different things work. We're excited to, like I said, to continue learning and figuring out, you know, what some of these athletes want to do. But it's a fun experience.
No, that's great. Those are also some really good ideas as well. And we know that, creativity is everything. So the ability for these student athletes to use their creativity, to step out there, to challenge themselves, I think it's going to be really, really good. We're helping them build their social media following, helping with some podcast opportunities as well, and then bringing this piece in as well. So it's more than just, giving them, some merchandise. It's building them as a business and as a brand. And that's what's really important to us. So
absolutely,
it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it really
is. It is. We're looking forward to it.
I can't tell you enough how, it's been good yet challenging, even dealing with my own son on, getting him to focus. But, when he does, and when he sees the value in it, which is what we're creating here, the value proposition, this is going to be something that's great for the student athlete. And,
absolutely,
we've worked on this for, a number of months. And now we're at this point where we're ready to start putting some things into action. So all the athletes that are out there that are listening, whether you go to a HBCU or another school and you just want to partner with the Icon, the 1901 Icon Collective, you're going to benefit from all these resources that we've pulled together. And Print for Players is one of our great partners.
And right now is really the time to do it during kind of this off season for a lot of sports, gearing up, getting everything ready, getting everything prepared for when the season starts, depending on the sport. I mean, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, no, this is it. That's why we're saying, everyone that's watching this is going to have some homework, right? They're going to need to gear up, because when they come back on the yard, as we say, most HBCUs, when you step back on the yard, you want to be ready to go. So absolutely, whether it's with your T-shirts, your pens, your notepads, whatever it is, we can all help each other, build this. And I see this only getting bigger and bigger as we start to use more social media, and the students have a tremendous opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yep. So with that, Bobby, just tell us, how easy it is to make this happen and what we have going here.
I tried to make it as easy as possible, man. I was a college student. I tried to make this extremely easy. I mean, you sign up, one of us will reach out to you all or to the player and get some information, and it's all automated, really. It's just emails. You'll get a contract, very simple one-page contract, and then fill out a
the collective have vetted. So so I just want to put that there.
Short and sweet, and then a W-9 form, and then they get a design form. They can upload inspiration if they really like the way certain things look. That way our design team, can start working on some stuff. If they have an existing logo, we can use that. We'll keep it. We'll just do the merchandise. If you already have a logo, don't be afraid. We're not going to steal it from you.
Right.
It's still yours. But it's easy. I mean, the entire process, if you have an idea of what design you'd like, the entire process will probably take no more than 30 minutes.
Okay. No, that's good. We like simple. We like for our students to, complete everything that's necessary for them to be successful. And then two, like I said, manage their business piece of this. So I'm glad to hear that it's easy to do, and that we have student athletes that are going to want to definitely participate. So I just want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Part of our NIL training camp. This is important. This is our first one. It's a great start. And this is just another great partner for our students to get off and running with.
We're really excited about it. We're really looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Bobby.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mark.